Welcome today. We are very delighted to speak to Paul Hobbs, the fourth generation farmer, winemaker and also founder of Paul's Winery. He was part of the inaugural winemaking team of Opus One in 1979, and years later he founded his namesake winery, Hobbs Winery, in 1991. An international visionary for his accomplishment in vineyard and winery, he has gradually expanded his portfolio around the globe, which now is including 7 wineries across 4 continents. With over 40 years of experience, he has received over 100 point scores and have been twice named Wine Personality of the Year by Robert Parker. We're excited to learn more about his journey, insights to the industry, and also share some good wines and see what the future holds in Paul Hobbs Winery. So, welcome, Paul.
Well, thank you very much, Gabriel.
Yes, it's been a long time since your last visit.
Truly, it's 5 years, I believe, just before COVID. I was here in November of 2019.
And also in your winery, I know you have some very special techniques to check whether the oak that you have worked with is of the ultimate standard. So how do you do it?
Well, basically, we spend a lot of time. The barrel is such an important component after the grape. It's probably the second most important component in the process. So getting the oak just right in terms of quality and in such a way that it works with our wines. We work very closely with the cooper, and part of it's one question would be, well, what is the grain? How fast was the tree growing? And we prefer tight grain or very tight grain. So it means a very slow growing tree for a slower rate of extraction and what we call élevage. And the élevage question is how the wine is maturing in the barrel.
Yep.
And we want that to be slow and controlled.
Of course, apart from the barrels and the winemakings, the more important thing in your philosophy is about the vineyard and also the vine selection. So how do you select vineyards, and what role does a terroir play in your wines?
Well, we try to optimize the role of terroir, and so the whole winemaking philosophy is based on that. So from a winemaking point of view, we're minimalistic in our approach, sort of like tread lightly, and we do everything we can to respect the grape and showcase the grape through the wine, of course. And in this case, some of the things, as an example, is these wines are all indigenous yeast fermentation as well as bacterial fermentation, which many people don't know. There's actually 2 fermentations, but all that is natural. There's no cultured yeast made in a factory or cultured organisms that are used to ferment the wine. And that showcases, so where they come from? Well, they come actually from the waxy, what we call the bloom coat that covers the berry, that protects the berry. And so they're attached, the yeast are attached to that waxy coat. And then they appear in the wine when we crush the fruit and put it in the fermenter. That native yeast conducts the fermentations. So that's part of what we do, but also there's no fining agents, nothing added to the wine. That's also crucial to respect, because every time you add something, you alter the personality. And finally, no filtration. So if you're looking at this wine, And if you were to put a light up under it, it's really kind of difficult to see. This is a Pinot Noir, but there's a little haze because it's very, very, very light, but it's almost imperceptible with the naked eye. But this wine has not been filtered. So those are the three pillars of winemaking that we adhere to. But the most important thing is how the grapes are grown. And you were asking, well, how do you select the site? Well, that's actually quite complicated.
Yes.
So, but we take into all the considerations: climate, topography, exposure, and also the soils, the geology. And that's all plays into what is the site suitable for the variety that we're looking at, and also the clone and rootstock. That all that has to be thought through and matched.
Yep.
So that's part of it. And then the other side of it is the farming. How do you, once you've chosen a site, how do you farm it? How do you set it up, and so on? So there's many decisions, but that's really, truly part of the fun of what I do.
Wow.
That's the creative side.
Yes, there's a lot of different components to make great wines, and you need everything to do right.
It's sort of the left brain, right brain. You need to engage both.
Yes, you can do without either one of them.
You can, but then you're going to have a little lopsided.
Yeah, and the key of your wine is ultimate balance. So you're
Yes,
not shy to showcase the sunshine, the places.
Correct.
With the fruit.
That's
and
important.
And also the oak, but they need to go very well together.
Actually, that's really important. We don't try to copy another region or have the wine taste like it's from a region in France or Italy. No, we're very focused on showcasing the region that we're working. So that could be California, Argentina, wherever we make wine, we really want it to be true to place.
So speaking of all the wines that you have, I think consumers in Hong Kong is familiar with your wines, and there are a lot of different labels from Paul Hobbs, Crossbarn, Cobos, or other different wineries that we represent you here.
Yes.
Any particular one, especially within Paul Hobbs Winery, that is you believe represent your style and philosophy?
Well, hopefully they all represent style and philosophy, and as we were saying in a moment ago, like your children, you love them all.
Yeah.
So, and you know, we might even say that, you know, in a particular situation, let's say for today, we have before us the Katherine Lindsay estate from California. This is my very first Pinot Noir vineyard, and well, cheers.
Oh, cheers.
And but you know, really, I don't have a favorite other than say the one that I'm drinking. But this Pinot Noir is a wine that really crosses a lot of different types of food types. So I think it does great here in Hong Kong. We have a very eclectic and broad variety of foods. So I think in terms of wines that I would tend to, if I had to choose one that would be suitable for many different types of situations, this Katherine Lindsay Pinot Noir would fit the bill.
How would you describe this particular bottling versus the rest of your range? For example, let's say Bull Rock Estate or maybe George Menini. Yeah. What is the particular specialty?
This is from the Russian River, and
Yes.
so it's growing on red clay soils. So I think you get some of that red clay coming through the flavor profile, but also the texture of the wine. The tannins here, Gabriel, are quite elegant and soft. There's a nice grip. There's a little bit of sea salt as well. And aromatically, I wouldn't say it's necessarily different, but it's a redder style versus, let's say, Gold Rock. Gold Rock would be darker red, or even some blue notes. This leans mostly red.
Red, like more plummy, more juicier.
More like cranberry, pomegranate, some red cherry, some raspberry as well.
And Katherine Lindsay is the name of that particular. Oh, it's the name of your daughter, right?
Actually, it's the name of my great-grandmother.
Oh, great-grandmother.
As you mentioned earlier, I'm a fourth-generation farmer.
Yes.
But my grandmother was, so it's actually I'm a third-generation farmer. My daughter is the fourth generation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no, that's quite all right. So it's my great-grandmother. So she's the one that started our family farm in New York. And then, of course, I moved out west to make wine. study at Davis and so on. So when I bought the first property to plant my very first vineyard of Pinot Noir, or actually the very first vineyard for Paul Hobbs, I decided to name it in her honor.
So that was back in 1991?
Correct.
Oh,
well,
wow.
the vineyard I bought later because in 1991, I started the company with so little money that I didn't have the funds to buy a property to plant a vineyard. So this one didn't get planted until 2000,
wow.
9 years later. So these soils, by the way, are formed by the collision of the two tectonic plates. We've talked about that before. And these, once the vine is well established, we don't need to irrigate. So these are what dry farmed vineyards.
So this is probably one of the dry farm vineyards that you have.
Yes.
And the other younger one that you still need some time to help them.
If it's a young vineyard just newly planted, well then we need basically 5 or 6 years before we can dry farm it. We help them as babies.
Yep.
Get up the stake and trained out under the wire, and then in the first few years of production. But after that, the roots are fully established, or they're not finished exploring the soil, but they're well enough established that we can dry farm.
Going to another topic. So I think you also mentioned at the beginning, like your wines right now tends to be following what the market needs right now. So what do you think the market needs, or what do you think the markets enjoy? What kind of style of wine these days?
Yeah, you know, if we look at particularly in countries such as the United States, but maybe here in Hong Kong as well, eastern seaboard of the US has always leaned more toward European style, but central and west have leaned toward New World. And the trends have shifted a lot. There was a period from mostly in the 2000s and probably for almost a 20-year stretch where power was everything. Consumer was still learning. And so to make it very simple, it was really fruit-forward wine. But now we're really focused much more again on elegance, but not in the way it was done 40 years or 50 years ago, or even 100 years ago. Now we're looking to make cleaner wines, like say less barnyard characteristics in the wine, and wines that actually are truly farmed very sustainably. I think that's changed a lot. And when you put all that together, the wines there's more purity and there's more elegance, but there's also the quality of the wine and the naturalness of the wine is superior.
And last question for you: what exciting projects or initiatives do you think that you're going to pursue? You know, or you are happy with all the projects that you have right now?
First of all, each of the wineries there's a constant. We have a philosophy of constant incremental improvement. So all the wineries are tasked with the idea of, I haven't settled yet, but I have at least one area that's quite appealing. It's where Lafitte Rothschild is located in an area called Yantai.
Yantai, okay.
Yeah.
Right, wow.
Yantai.
You are definitely relentless, like a working fella. And definitely, I think, how do you manage your time, like throughout the day, of so many of all the projects that you have in your hands?
Well, I like to sleep. I think that's one of the most important things. So I think you know, maybe people don't talk about that, but I feel I work best when I'm well rested and more efficient, so I can get more done in a shorter period of time. And then, of course, there's every location, whether it's my wine or I'm consulting and advising another winery, I have a certain basic background protocol that they all adhere to. So you could say it's a culture that's developed wherever I'm working. So a winery in Argentina follows the same protocol as California, but the winemaking doesn't. But the way we work does. And so it's a unification and simplification of how do we maintain the records, for example, or manage the finance. But of course, when we think about the more creative side, we can't market the wines of Argentina with the same team that would market, let's say, Paul Hobbs wines, or or develop the websites, or all that kind of work is done locally. So we have local teams. That's kind of how we work. And then we just have the advantages today that we didn't have even 30 or 40 years ago with communication. I mean, I remember, for example, when I first went to Argentina, and the winery where I worked had only one telephone line and one fax machine. And actually that was cut by a tree that fell. And then we had no communication for like 6 weeks before they repaired it. And so today, of course, the modern communication makes it much easier. You can send photos, we can do virtual meetings, all kinds of things. And so I make 4 trips a year to South America to oversee the work we do there. 2 trips a year to Europe and Asia Minor. So that's how I kind of keep track of everything.
Lastly, I think I'd like to know, because of your scientific background, definitely you have everything in place, have it recognized like in a very scientific manner, like everything ticks. Do you think the intuition or your experience plays a big part in your whole career? Of course, I heard that soon in a few years' time, it will be your 50th harvest around the globe. Right?
Yes, that's true. I think in 3 years' time,
yep.
I will 50 harvest, but actually 50 vintages. But altogether, if I add in South America,
vintage,
then it's well over 80. You know, actually, intuition, you build that, right? That's like muscle memory. And so in the beginning of my career, I leaned more on science. Science is still important in kind of tracking and analyzing the wine's evolution. So we have laboratories and things of that nature, and people that kind of make sure that the wine stays on track that way. But the majority of the real creative and artisanal side of what we do, the handcrafted aspect, now that's all intuition, built through experience. So even the harvest decision, for example, we don't do, most wineries would run the sugars through something, we don't do that.
Right.
We basically walk the vineyard and make the call based on our observations.
So again, thank you, Paul, for coming to Hong Kong to visit us and share some experience and insights with our audience and also with our team, which we are definitely very impressed, and we learned a lot from the whole winemaking journey and also the whole to go into the vision of Paul Hobbs wine. So all the best with your future projects in Eastern Europe or China, and yeah, I hope to see you next time in Hong Kong.
Indeed, Gabriel. And hello, everyone. Just remember to share, like, comment, and subscribe to Watson Wine's YouTube channel. See you next time.
Bye-bye.